Versatile Mage. Chapter 449. Battle against the vampire in rage. Lu Ru raised her head and saw Mo Fan approaching her through the vanishing light from the flame. She realized something and quickly covered her face with her hand. She was afraid that Mo Fan would see her fangs. She had no clue how to hide these loathsome things. She felt like a monster when they were exposed outside of her mouth, and she had also used them to drink Mo Fan's blood. Damn it, damn it, damn it, you're asking for your death. The vampire's furious roar was heard coming from outside the window. Despite falling from the height, he was not smashed into minced meat. Instead, he had turned into a bat and flown back up to the floor. The bat's wings were terrifying, like giant leather stained with oil wrapped around the wing bones, like a great long wall when they were fully extended. Nidong angrily flew back to the floor and locked his vicious, glowing eyes on Mo Fan. This goddamned magician was the reason everything went wrong, including him being kicked out from the family and losing his favorite prey. Those who dared mess with vampires all ended up with their corpses and souls missing. Since Nidong was no longer bound to the rules, he would not care if the person was a magician or not. Claw of Destruction. A sticky lump of blood appeared around Nidong, rapidly taking the shape of a giant claw. As Nidong swiped his hand forward, the claw made of blood tore at Mo Fan. The claw swept past the floor, big enough to hold Mo Fan's entire figure in it. Mo Fan did not dare to lower his guard. His body quickly dissolved into the shadows spread by the scattering light. The claw clenched tightly, trying to pinch Mo Fan into pieces. Unfortunately, it had only caught Mo Fan's afterimage, as the real Mo Fan had turned into a lump of shadow moving toward another position across the wall. Just a little trick, mocked Nidong. He was too familiar with the shadow element. Thus, a simple relocation through the shadow was not enough to escape from his darkness-contaminated eyes. As Nidong swiped his hands, screeches were heard coming from the darkness on the floor. Cold flickers took place as the sharp wings flapped rapidly, their eyes emitting red glows. It was the Nightblade bats. Nidong was able to control hundreds of these Nightblade bats at a time. Their attack could easily shred a living human into pieces. The Nightblade bats came from all directions and quickly gathered toward Mo Fan. Mo Fan was aware that the space in the building was limited, which hindered him from using his full strength. He quickly grabbed the severely injured Lu Ru and dashed toward the gap between the steel glass. The steel glass broke from the collision, and the pieces dropped from the 40th floor together with Mo Fan. Do you think you can run away from me? Nidong's bellow came from behind them. The roar was followed by the screeches of the Nightblade bats. The bats rushed out of the building like a cloud of black gas, chasing after the falling Mo Fan relentlessly. Their descent was not quick enough. Many parts of Mo Fan's body were covered in cuts from the Nightblade bat's wings. Lu Ru immediately used her body to protect Mo Fan from the bat's attack. Even though she was covered in wounds, the Nightblade bats could only leave shallow cuts on her body without focusing on a certain part. Her body composition was extraordinary compared to normal humans, even stronger than magicians. The flock of black creatures followed after Mo Fan, who cast the fleeing shadow as he almost landed on the ground. His figure quickly dissolved among the shadows of the buildings and moved toward the illuminated street. The street was deserted. The street was full of finance companies, and most of their operating hours were only from 9 to 5. It was rare to see any pedestrian here once the clock struck 7. The nearest residential area was around half a kilometer away. The number of cars passing by on the street was almost zero, and the traffic lights on the intersections were mere decorations. Mo Fan sprinted to the intersection using fleeing shadow and was unable to travel any further when the shadows diminished at the center there. Meanwhile, the Nightblade bats were nocturnal creatures. They could easily trace Mo Fan's location and stayed on his heels. Their inky black bodies were fully exposed under the gloomy streetlights, all packed densely together. Still chasing after me. I'll kill you all. Mo Fan stopped running. A fiery star pattern was drawn rapidly under his feet, while flames accumulated on his right fist rapidly. As the star pattern was completed, a blazing force gathered on Mo Fan's wrist. Groundbreak. As the fist struck the ground, the cement at the center of the intersection began to crack open. Boiling lava jetted out into the air, dyeing the place red. A fiery, wild, and tempestuous groundbreak blossomed, centered on Mo Fan. Mo Fan had thrown the punch right at the ground under him, and the fire bursting out from it covered him whole, as if his entire person was set aflame. The Nightblade bats were charging at Mo Fan in a stream, planning to tear him to pieces. However, they were quickly burned into ashes by the flames, despite their numbers. A huge chunk of them was burned to death and wiped out instantly. The fire was still drifting wildly. Mo Fan's body was blazing red from the fire, looking like a volcano that would explode in any second. The remaining Nightblade bats scattered like absent-minded flies, totally losing any courage to provoke Mo Fan. Mo Fan spat and raised his eyes, quickly discovering a pair of giant leather wings looming over him. Between the black wings was a savage face. The sharp fangs poking out from his upper jaw had almost reached the bottom of his jaw. Nidong opened his mouth and bit at Mo Fan's neck. He was not trying to drink Mo Fan's blood. He wanted to tear his throat out. Light protection. Sacred shield. As Mo Fan was still thinking about how he was going to dodge the attack, Zhao Manyan's chant was heard from not far away, where he had just arrived in his car. The sacred light shield quickly surrounded Mo Fan, forming a barrier that blocked the darkness and the evil creature. The fangs crashed onto the sacred shield. White smoke quickly rose from Nidong's fangs, and he immediately withdrew in fear. After all, the light element was a vampire's weakness, clearly shown by Nidong's panicked expression. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.